Because I was wondering if people like Martin Carthy and Bert Jansch, if you get any sense from them, and this weird attitude they must have to folk, where sometimes it seems to come in again, it's festival, then they're really in the cold. Kind of spent a lot of the 80s definitely in the cold.
Yeah.
But they just carry on, you know. I mean, you know, when you have a life like, you know, and you go this way, and when you come back, oh, there's Roy Harper, he's still going. You know, oh, Martin Carthy. You know, you've gone over there somewhere. You've gone way into MTV land. One has gone way into this land or that land, and then you go back and they're still there. And then Kurt Cobain dies 2 years later. They're still there. They just keep coming. Do you know what I mean? You know, all the fashions and the trends and the critical nonsenses and the canons doesn't seem to mean anything. It is the unbelievable commitment to just music and just some kind of tradition that they think it's really important to continue.
Yeah, that's right. I think that ideology. And this is just, I'm just supposing now, they might, you know, I hope they don't think what you're talking about, but I think that ideology there is that minstrel sort of side of things, obviously, which I'm sure, but essentially I think a lot of those people, when they were teenagers, I think they got a lot of that from Jack Kerouac.
Right, okay, yeah.
It's like, well, why would you, you know, well, yeah, success is great, but the next book I'll go and be a forest.
Yeah.
Like, which is what Roy Harper did with Stormcock, which to me is just one of the greatest records ever. I'll go out and
But is it interesting
birdwatch or
that
something.
somehow it gets dislodged from the canon? So say that year, I think there's Medal and there's probably, you know, something else that's deemed to be the album of the year or whatever, and Roy's somehow gets lost. Do you know what I mean? It takes a lot of trawling back to give it its true credit. You know, I think for 30 years it was probably just not considered at all, was it?
I hear it as. Yeah, it is true, but I hear it as, I think other musicians, I hear a lot of Roy Harper in Hunky Dory, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
And
that's fascinating, because there was a lot of Michael Chapman in Man Who Sold the World, and he almost used the same bloody band, didn't he?
I don't know.
Well, yeah, you know Michael Chapman?
Yeah.
Michael Chapman, you know, he used Ronson, and he was using he was basically using the Spiders from Mars.
I don't know.
And then Bowie sort of nicked them.
Right.
You know, you know what I mean? You know, so it kind of same sort of principle. You know, I guess it's the common story, isn't it? It's something going on in the underground that's turned into the mainstream. You know, and and the poor underground people who are doing it are kind of forgotten. So let me ask you about the Cribs.
Right.
The weird. It's almost like I'm wondering about the DNA of it, that you arrive in a band of a certain age and of a certain sensibility with all of your experience and knowledge. And you know, it's some of the things we've been talking about. You know, you bring into this group that don't, I guess, have that, not directly anyway. You know, what kind of alteration that makes to it, and why you're fascinated by doing that kind of thing, because you seem to like those experiments. And again, from the outside, you kind of go, "Whoa, where's that come from?"
yeah, but well, one thing about the Cribs is that they are experts at the culture that they come from. You know, the sort of, whether it's the mid-90s to present-day zine culture, or what was going on in the Pacific Northwest. I mean, I've never come across anybody who knows so much about liner notes and reissues, and I mean, it's fascinating, absolutely. So because of that, we're kind of cut from the same cloth, really.
Yeah.
And I suppose, I mean, I do know that for all my sort of expertise, I like to think that if I've got any expertise, it really has to come second to how it feels when you're in a group, really. And
that's something you seem to need.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I thought for the longest time I didn't really, but I need to be in the right group. But I've tended to always work with really fascinating people, fascinating characters, which bring something out in me, and I kind of go, I know how to do this. That's what I think. Like in Modest Mouse, it was a six-piece with me in it, two drummers. You know, in a way, almost like a sort of an American Pogues in a way. I was going, oh right, I think I know how to be in this. I know what I need to be in this. What needs to happen if it is for this group is this. Musically and otherwise. Do I want to be that? Will that be good for me as a person and a musician? And if all those boxes are ticked, I'll go, roll your sleeves up and do it. And then, because I'll be a sort of interesting guitar player.
Yeah.
4 or 5 years later, I'll be a 5 years more interesting guitar player because of it.
And all of that's still important.
Yeah, I mean, I can't really imagine living without it. I mean, at some point, I might just draw a line and go, right, I'm done. But I'm a working musician. That's what.
A worker. You get up and work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, that's. I want to be a working musician.
Mm. You find that you can talk about the Smiths sort of from the outside, as if almost you were sort of not part of it in a way.
Yeah, I do. Yeah, you have to ignore the twerps on the internet, but I do that. Yeah, yeah.
What do you mean?
Because it's so personal.
Yeah.
Because it's this day and age. You know, you just have to do that really. Because I think, we were just discussing it at the band on the way down here. You know, I mean, I think the internet's fantastic, but it is unfortunately it's a platform for loudmouths and bigots too.
Yeah, it can be quite fundamentalist, can't it?
Yeah, it can. Yeah, and so and that sort of takes away that sort of joyful aspect of like thinking about what I've done really. You know, because you just don't really want to please those people. You start wanting to say things for that, with them in mind and all of that sort of stuff. You know, good or bad.
They sort of ruin it for you in a way.
I think writers are having to deal with it. I think a lot of people are dealing with it. You know, I think I'm going off on a different subject here, but it's just when you read an article, I'm starting to be one of those people who starts to read the comments page underneath.
Yeah.
Don't really want to do that. It takes away authorship.
All the people responding,
because it's so one-sided.
Yeah.
And it's a certain type of person, even whether it's positive or negative. And that's sort of, I've noticed doing press and stuff now that, when talking about, the Smiths or what I've done, you kind of become aware of that.
Yes.
And I think that must mess with you if you're an author as well, I think.
Yeah. So in that sense, you want to try and distance it and just view it as something else.
And that's why I say if I don't think about those things, I can totally talk about it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, absolutely.
With a sort of, with a certain kind of objectivity, I think.
So Martin Carthy, he talks a lot about what he does now, very much. He's 67, 68. Oh God, yeah, he's all right with that. And about a work in progress. It's always a work in progress. You know, he's never found the perfect moment. He's always searching for it, questing for it. Is that something still very much in your mentality?
Yeah, it is absolutely. Yeah, I think you're looking for it in every song, and that's why I'm fine with playing in groups with other people. I don't have to write everything because I can get that search from at sound check, or me and Ryan playing together, or me in Gary's basement in Portland. It's exactly the same feeling that I had when I was like 13, 14, going around my mate's house who I didn't really know that well. And it's for that sort of 4 or 5 minutes or 2 hours. I'm looking to get all of that, and it's it's probably good for whatever group I'm in, because if that's where 100% of my effort and energies and concern is going, and not in running the group or writing lyrics or anything, it's just into my guitar playing, and maybe something good will come out of it. But I'm always looking for. I just even if it's a B-side, I sort of still think it while I'm playing it. I really get off on it. I think it's great.
Are there ever been moments when you miss Morrissey?
Not anymore. Professionally,
yeah.
Not anymore. Personally, sure. Yeah, because we had a shared sense of humour, and I like him. So professionally, I don't think it's necessary really, because I think what I'm doing, and probably he thinks what he's doing, is fascinating to us. Way more fascinating than knocking out all the old stuff.
Yeah.
So, but as a person, I miss him, because me and him had, we have a pretty good laugh and some interesting ideas together,
There's the great romance of you going through the singles box, playing, early 60s B-sides of Tamla songs, but did you also sit around listening to Roy Harper and Bert Jansch?
Buffy Sainte-Marie.
Buffy Sainte-Marie, wow.
Yeah. And I think a little bit of Bert Jansch, which I instigated, and which Morrissey totally got. It Don't Bother Me, which I've always absolutely loved. So yeah, and I do think, I suspect there's a couple of Roy Harper tracks that Mozza likes.
I'd love to hear him do When an Old Cricketer Leaves the Crease. Actually.
Well, Yeah, yeah. I like a sophisticated beggar. I think that's really, really good.
Yeah.
The thing with Roy Harper, I did think that he had kind of his midway between the kind of sound of Syd Barrett and the attitude of John Lennon, you know, which I know is a very grand claim, but I think he's got something. He's really got tons of attitude, and you can hear it in his voice. He's a great singer, a really good guitar player, and could only have come out of England. It's funny, again, that thing about the concrete. That England,
Yeah.
America has this. It's always very expansive when they do stuff, and even with folk music, when British people do it, it's still very sort of claustrophobic.
It must be the island thing, mustn't it? In the end, a small island. You know, the sense that ultimately it is a small island, and you're trying to transcend it almost.
I guess so.
Float
Yeah.
above it.
And grey skies, maybe.
Yeah, in America you can go off on a journey. Here, you know, you kind of know that if your journey's going to end with the sea, isn't it, and the crashing coast, you know.
It always sounds like it's environment. I mean, all great bands do that, whether it's Kraftwerk or the Bee Gees.
You said the Beatles. Oh, I thought you were going to say the Beatles.
I was going to say the Beach Boys, actually. Yeah, you know, all the great bands really do sound like their environment. You know, Joy Division, you know, Smiths and stuff. But I think all those folk bands really, I mean, the incredible string bands, you can hear that sort of Highland sky right on top of it. Yeah. It never sounds like, any of that British folk that I like, I never imagine butterflies tweeting in the background. And just because I don't really like a lot of the sort of more, you know, the sort of shanty kind of real working man stuff. You know, I admire it, but I don't listen to it because, as I said, it's just not harmonically, melodically, it's not my thing. Yeah. But you hear British pubs. I don't really think you hear the docks. I think you hear people in pubs complaining about the docks, and it just will never be. When people go, "Oh, this airy fairy stuff," none of it ever sounds airy fairy. You know.
Could I just finish by asking again about that list he sent me, because I was very intrigued by, you know, the Roy Harper, Clive's original band, Jackson C. Frank, and Roy Harper. The idea that it seems to be this craving for unusual music, you know, and craving for the strange that ultimately seems to be really important in your DNA, really. That, you know, fighting the cliches, fighting the inherited wisdom, always looking around
for me?
the edges. Yeah.
It is.
Which folk, in a way, is a really important element of, I think, or whatever we want to call it. You know, we call it folk, but in a way, it's something else, isn't it?
Well, where I really like that, it's there's people I know, and you'll know them too, who like much stranger music, but once it gets to this line where I used to say just like pop, but once it gets beyond this line where there are no boundaries, I think it's too easy. You know. Because I think even where, you know, even Coltrane, that was, you know, still considered the listener at some point. And so those things are odd, but I could imagine them, a lot of those songs being just on a 7-inch single, albeit on a, you know what I mean? Like again, comes back to King of the Rumbling Spires. I mean, it's perfection. And Jackson C. Frank's had a very not uncommercial voice, you know, strong and all of those things, but there's good tunes there still. That's what I'm saying. And that when you sort of bending it and doing all this great stuff with, but with that sort of spook, whatever it is, whether it's you know, Boland strings or simply Lennon's voice on the White Album. Again, that's a folk record. But you've got a tune there as well. And
why don't you like the Beatles?
Oh, I do like the Beatles.
You do like the Beatles?
Oh yeah, I do like them. Yeah, I do like them a lot. Yeah. Okay. Would never. There's something in me that never will never say I like the Stones less. Right. Because that's looks like a stupid football thing, isn't it? Yeah. I had to sort of get my badge when I was younger. Yeah. But I prefer the Stones, but I love the Beatles. Yeah.
They were like a folk band, really, weren't they? If you think about the English thing, singing about their environment, taking some of those unusual chords. There was a hell of a lot of folk in it.
Yeah, I mean, Taste of Honey's a folk song, totally, innit? I mean, harmonically and melodically, and obviously, you know, stuff off the White Album, as I said, like Julia, is its own kind of folk. But I think they were listening to the people who were being probably more bohemian than they were in the day, and probably getting tipped off by Donovan.
Yeah,
because he was probably sleeping on the floor. Yeah, yeah.
I got a feeling that you'd put together the Cribs album coming out the week it came out as your sort of comment on the Beatles, almost. You know what I mean? Well,
yeah.
All that goes on, but this is still going on.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Well, we were. I think Sergeant Pepper and Abbey Road was two places that was higher than us, but we were higher than Revolver and the White Album, which makes us better than them at their peak in 2009. So that should be the disclaimer.
Yeah, you timed it perfect.
Not as good as the Cribs on two of their albums.
Hey, look, thanks, Johnny.
Thanks, Paul. Yeah,
Now
great.
I've got to work.
Yeah, right. I better don't go and do it now.